Okay, so today we're diving into something that sounds kind of crazy, like almost too good to be true. Imagine getting tons of views on Instagram, hundreds of thousands, in just a week, with a brand new account. And you don't even have to show your face.
Yeah, it definitely grabs your attention. And the stuff we're looking at today is pretty interesting. It's promotional material from a guy named Jeremy Kennedy. He calls it a simple loophole to grow on Instagram. He and a friend of his, Obinna Patrick, aka Steel BigFoot. They say they figured it out.
So what is this loophole exactly? Is it some shady tactic, like something you're not supposed to do?
It's actually pretty simple. The main idea is that you repost content that's already gone viral. It's not about stealing, it's about using what's already popular.
Right, if something's already popular, it makes sense that it would get attention again. But how's that a loophole?
It all comes down to how the Instagram algorithm works. The platform likes content that people engage with, likes comments, shares, So when you repost something that's already viral, you're basically tapping into that engagement and giving it a second life.
So you're kind of like piggybacking on someone else's success.
In a way, yeah. But it could also benefit both people if you do it the right way. Reposting viral content could give it even more reach, which could actually help the original creator too.
That's interesting. So it's not just taking advantage, it could actually be a win-win.
Exactly. And the no face, no fame part is really interesting too. You don't have to be an influencer or have any experience to try this.
That's huge for people who don't like being on camera or who are nervous to put themselves out there.
Totally. It makes it much easier for anyone to try it out. It doesn't matter how comfortable you are with being in the spotlight.
I see what you mean. So let's talk about the results. What kind of numbers are Jeremy and Obinna getting with this method?
Oh, they're saying they're getting some pretty impressive results. For example, Obinna supposedly got over 800,000 views on one reel with a brand new account. It was only 8 days old and had 0 followers.
800,000 views.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a lot. But I'm curious, how much of that turns into actual engagement or followers? Are people just watching the reel, or are they actually following the account and interacting?
That's a good question, and it's something to think about. Getting a lot of views is great, but it's the engagement and follower growth that really matter in the end. Jeremy says he consistently gets over 1,000 views a day using this method, and they both show screenshots as proof. But those screenshots don't show the whole story, like how many likes, comments, and followers they got.
So you could get a ton of views, but not necessarily build a big following.
Right. It's important to remember that views are just one way to measure success. It really depends on what your goals are. If you just want to be seen quickly, this method might work. But if you want to build a loyal audience and stay on the platform for a long time, you need to think about more than just views.
So there's more to it than just reposting viral content. What else do Jeremy and Obinna suggest?
Well, they say that speed and simplicity are really important. They say it only takes about 60 seconds to make and post each reel. And they also emphasize that you can use this method for anything. Any niche, any product. Affiliate products, physical goods services, real estate, car mechanics, you name it.
So they're saying this is a quick and easy way to use Instagram for all sorts of things, not just for building your personal brand.
Exactly. They're basically saying it's a shortcut to getting attention and driving traffic wherever you want it to go.
But that makes me wonder, is it sustainable? Can you just keep reposting other people's content forever?
That's a really important point. This method might give you a quick boost, but it's probably not a long-term solution. Eventually, you'll need to create your own content and find your own voice to really stand out and build something that lasts on the platform.
It's tempting to go for that quick win, but I wonder if you can really build a truly engaged audience that way in the long run.
That's where strategy comes in. It's not enough to just repost viral content. You have to think about how you can use that initial attention to connect with your audience, provide value, and ultimately build something sustainable.
Right, you need a plan to turn those views into something meaningful.
Exactly. This loophole might be a good starting point, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. You still have to do the work to create great content, engage with your audience, and build a real connection with them.
So it's not a magic solution, but it could be a useful tool if you use it strategically.
Exactly. It's a potential shortcut to getting seen, but it's not a replacement for building a real lasting presence on Instagram.
That makes sense. Now, speaking of sustainability, they are selling a course that teaches this method, right?
That's right. Jeremy and Obinna have put all their knowledge and instructions into a paid course. The method itself is free to use, but they're making money by selling your expertise.
That makes sense. They found something that seems to work, and they're turning it into a product.
Right.
But do they guarantee results?
They do include a disclaimer about earnings. saying that results may vary, and that not everyone who buys the course will be as successful.
That's responsible of them. It would be misleading to say that this is a guaranteed way to get viral and rich.
Absolutely. Everyone's results will be different. It depends on how much effort you put in, how consistent you are, what niche you choose, and how the social media algorithms change.
It seems like there's a lot to think about. Before we move on, I want to go back to the ethics of this method. What are your thoughts on reposting someone else's content, even if it's viral and you give them credit?
It's a good question. Jeremy and Obinna say it can benefit both people because it gives the original content more exposure. But it's important to think about how the creators feel about it. Some might see it as you taking advantage of their work, while others might be happy to get the extra attention.
It's a gray area. There's no easy answer.
Yeah.
It really comes down to your own judgment and respecting the original creators.
Exactly. It's important to approach this method carefully. Think about all sides of the issue. Be mindful, respectful, and transparent.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there are no magic shortcuts in social media. This method might help you get seen faster, but it's important to use it strategically, ethically, and with a long-term plan.
It's about using this loophole as a stepping stone, not the final destination.
Exactly. If you want to learn more about Jeremy Kennedy and Obinna Patrick's method, you can check out the link below this video. But before you do that, take some time to think about your own goals and values and how this approach fits with your overall vision for your online presence.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. So it's not a magic solution, but it could be a useful tool if you use it strategically.
Right. And they are selling a course that teaches this whole method.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They packaged it up as a product.
Yeah, Jeremy and Obinna, they've put all their knowledge and instructions into a paid course. I mean, the method itself is free to use, but they're selling their expertise.
That makes sense. They found something that works and they're monetizing it. But do they offer any guarantees? Like, do they promise you'll get certain results?
Well, they do have a disclaimer about earnings. They say that results may vary and that not everyone who buys the course will be as successful as them.
Okay, so they're not making any crazy promises.
No, it would be misleading to say that this is a surefire way to get a ton of views and make a bunch of money.
Right, because everyone's results will probably be different.
Exactly. It depends on so many things, how much effort you put in, how consistent you are, what niche you're in, and the algorithms are always changing.
Yeah, true. There are so many factors.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the ethics of this method. What do you think about reposting other people's content, even if it's viral? And you give them credit.
That's a tricky one. It's a bit of a gray area, isn't it? Jeremy and Obinna say it can be a win-win because the original creator gets more exposure, but we have to consider how the creators feel about it. Some people might be totally fine with it, but others might feel like you're taking advantage of their hard work.
Yeah, it's tough to say there's no easy answer.
Exactly. It comes down to using your best judgment and being respectful of the original creators.
So being mindful and transparent is key.
Absolutely.
So what's the main takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. There's no magic formula for success on social media. This method might be a shortcut to getting more views, but you need to be smart about it. Use it ethically and have a long-term plan.
Don't just chase the quick win. Think about the bigger picture.
Exactly. If you guys want to learn more about Jeremy and Obinna's method, there's a link below this video. But before you click on it, think about what you want to achieve. What are your goals? What are your values? How does this method fit into your overall vision for your online presence?
That's some great advice. Thank you. Okay, so we've talked about this loophole and how it works, but the big question is, what's the point? Is it just about getting a bunch of views? Or is there something more to it?
Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it? What would you actually do with all those views if you could get them overnight?
It's easy to get caught up in the numbers, but those numbers have to mean something. They have to lead to something real.
Exactly. Remember what we talked about earlier? You need a strategy. Are you trying to sell something, build a community, or maybe just share your ideas with the world?
Because views by themselves won't get you there.
Right. It's what you do with those views that really matters. It's like you're opening a door to a room full of people. What do you do once you're in that room?
Do you talk to them? Do you show them something cool? Do you inspire them to do something?
Exactly. And that's what I want our listeners to think about. This loophole might help you get more attention, but the real work starts after that.
So before you try any shortcuts, think about what you really want to accomplish. What's your message? What are you passionate about? What do you want to share with the world?
Because in the end, that's what will make your content stand out. That's what will make people care, whether you have 1,000 views or 1,000,000.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this gave you some things to think about. And if you want to learn more about Jeremy and Obinna's method, you can find a link below this episode.